I hope you have seen my previous videos on supernovas and carbon formation, and my video on carbon bonds, and my video on isomers and chirality. In this video, I will discuss carbon compounds. Carbon compounds are named by how carbon atoms are chained, and whether the carbon-carbon bonds are single, double, or triple bonds. In alkanes, the carbon atoms are singly bonded. In alkenes, the carbon atoms have at least one double bond. In alkynes, the carbon atoms have at least one triple bond. The most common alkane hydrocarbon is methane, CH4. The natural gas that is used to heat homes is more than 90% methane with different mixes of ethane, C2H6, propane, C3H8, and butane, C4H10. Butane has two isomers, N-butane and isobutane, or ibutane. Both N-butane and ibutane have the formula C4H10. From the chemical diagrams, it can be seen that the left diagram in butane is a linear chain of 4 carbon atoms, while the right diagram shows the ibutane is branched from the second carbon atom. As the number of carbon atoms in an alkane is increased, the number of isomers or branched forms increase. These branches have an effect on the isomers' properties, such as changing its boiling point and solubility in water. Pentane has 5 carbon atoms, hexane has 6 carbon atoms, and heptane has 7 carbon atoms. Each of the alkanes have many isomers besides the linear isomer. Alkanes that we might encounter in everyday life include octane and cetane. Octane C8AH18 has 8 carbon atoms and is the most energetic component of gasoline. Octane has 18 isomers. Cetane or hexadecane, C16H34, is a 16-carbon atom alkane and the most energetic component of diesel fuel. The alkenes are hydrocarbons with at least one pair of double-bonded carbon atoms. The simplest alkene is ethylene, C2H4. In ethylene, the hydrogen atoms are single-bonded, while the carbon atoms are joined by a double bond. As we will learn, it is fairly simple to break the double bond into a single bond and leave each carbon with an open bond point to which other hydrocarbon groups can link on to chain the ethylene into polymers such as polyethylene. Propadiene, C3H4, should not be confused with propyne, C3H4. The difference between propyne and propadiene is that propadiene has double-bonded carbon atoms rather than a triple bond of propyne. Propene and propyne are often bottled together in map welding gas. Propene C3H6 is another double-bonded carbon atom alkene gas. Alkynes have triple-bonded carbon. Acetylene, C2H2, is the simplest alkyne. Acetylene has 2 triple-bonded carbon atoms in line with 2 hydrogen atoms. Acetylene is used as welding and cutting torch fuel. Propyne, C3H4, is another alkyne composed of 2 triple-bonded carbon atoms. Propyne, C3H4, should not be confused with propadiene, C3H4. The difference between propyne and propadiene is that propadiene has double-bonded carbon atoms rather than a triple bond of propyne. Propene and propyne are often bottled together in map welding gas. Propyne has been used as rocket fuel. A variation of the linear hydrocarbons are the cyclocarbons or carbon rings. These cyclocarbons are often called aromatics because we can smell their presence. The alkanes, alkenes, and alkynes have cyclic forms assuming more than 2 carbon atoms to form a circuit. Cycloalkanes have no double-bonded carbon atoms. The simplest cyclic alkanes, cyclopropane, a carbon triangle, and cyclobutane, a carbon square form, are possible but unstable. Cyclopentane, C5H10, and cyclohexane, C6H12, are stable molecules as their bond angles cause them to be more relaxed tetrahedral than planar. The tetrahedral out-of-plane shapes allow the single bonds of cyclopentane and cyclohexane to be less tense and less likely to break than the planar shapes of cyclopropane and cyclobutane. The cyclohexane, C6H12, stick and ball model shows the ring is not planar but bent tetrahedrally at carbon nodes. Cycloalkenes have at least one pair of double-bonded carbon atoms. They follow the same pattern as cycloalkanes, except the stiffness of the double bonds force the cycloalkenes to be planar. A common cycloalkene is benzene, C6H6. Benzene gives gasoline its odor. Benzene is toxic, can cause brain damage, and is a carcinogen, especially linked to blood cancers like leukemia. That being said, benzene can form the basis for many useful chemicals, solvents, paint thinners, dynamite TNT, and medicines such as aspirin. Although benzene can be drawn with the carbon atoms joined by 3 single bonds and 3 double bonds, the drawing is misleading as quantum mechanics requires the double bonds to be in resonance or in both likely places, simultaneously. The benzene molecule is better drawn with just a circle to indicate the double bond is in constant motion about the ring. The triple-bonded cycloalkynes do exist, although the triple bond is extremely stiff and prefers to be linear and resists being bent into a ring. Small cycloalkynes do not exist. The simplest cycloalkyne is cyclooctane, with 8 carbon atoms in the cyclooctane ring. There are 8 common functional groups that can be substituted for hydrogen to change the nature of the hydrocarbon. These 8 functional groups are hydroxyl, OH, carbonyl, CO, carboxyl, COOH, amino, and H2, sulfhydryl, SH, phosphate, PO4, methyl, CH3, and the acetyl group, CH3CO. A hydroxyl OH group will form a polarized branch that will make the compound it is attached to more water-soluble due to hydrogen bonding. A carbonyl CO group will cause a polarized branch that will make the compound more water-soluble due to hydrogen bonding. A carboxyl COOH group is just a carbonyl bonded to a hydroxyl. When carboxyl is joined to a compound, the H+ ion is likely to break free and join a water molecule to form the acidic hydronium ion, H3O+. An amino, NH2 group, when attached to a compound and dissolved in water, the amino, NH2 group, will attract a H+ from the water and cause the solution to become more basic. Amino acids have branches with an amino group, an H2, and a carboxyl group, COOH, and it is the carboxyl group's tendency to lose a hydrogen ion that cause the amino acid to become acidic. Amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. Sulfhydryl SH groups on a compound are important because if 2 sulfur atoms come in contact, they may jettison the hydrogen to the solution and form a sulfur-sulfur bond called a disulfide bridge that will cause a bend in the compound. Disulfide bridges are important to protein folding because the protein will bend and fold at its disulfide bridges. A phosphate PO4 group joined to a compound dissolved in water will tend to make the solution more acidic. Phosphate groups are a key component of nucleotides that are the building blocks of DNA and RNA. Phosphate groups, when joined to a lipid fatty acid, form phospholipid, the key component for building cell membranes. The A of the GCAT nucleotide building blocks of DNA is adenine. If adenine bonds with ribose sugar, it becomes adenosine. Inside the mitochondria of cells, adenosine is joined to 3 phosphate groups to form the compound adenosine triphosphate, ATP. ATP is used by the cells as their primary energy source. A methyl CH3 group is easily recognized as part of the gas methane, CH4. When methyl groups are added to compounds, they make that section of compound nonpolar or neutral. When a methyl CH3 group is attached to a DNA molecule, the gene at that section is neutralized or turned off. When a methyl CH3 group is bonded to a carbonyl CO group, the result is an acetyl group, CH3CO. Acetyl groups are a key component of the pain reliever acetaminophen found in Tylenol. Enzymes may add acetyl groups to a section of DNA to make those genes easier to transcribe. When any of these functional groups are substituted into a carbon ring, they dramatically change its properties. For example, start with the carbon ring benzene, C6H6, and substitute 1 hydrogen for a methyl group, CH3, to make the paint thinner toluene. Continue from toluene and substitute 3 more hydrogen for 3 nitrite groups, NO2, to get trinitrotoluene, better known as the explosive chemical in dynamite, TNT. Pure benzene is toxic. Substituting in other functional groups can turn benzene into medicine. Start with benzene, C6H6, and substitute a carboxyl group, COOH, for one hydrogen, and an acetyl group, CH3CO, for a second hydrogen, and the result is acetyl salicylic acid, more commonly known as aspirin. If one hydrogen in benzene is replaced with a hydroxyl, OH group, the result is phenol. Phenol is the precursor compound to many plastics, including nylon, and medicines, including acetaminophen. The over-the-counter painkiller, acetaminophen, brand name Tylenol, has phenol as its base. Acetaminophen is a phenol with a second hydrogen substituted by an amino group, an AH2, attached to an acetyl group, CH3CO. In cases where benzene or hexacarbon ring joins a carbon chain as a branch, the hexacarbon ring branch is called a phenyl group. And while phenol is benzene with a hydroxyl group attached, a benzyl group is a benzene ring with a methyl group, CH3, attached. Now that we see the importance of carbon rings and the functional groups that can alter their properties, we can look at simple organic compounds that we might encounter in organic chemistry and in biochemistry. The simple organic compounds include sugars, alcohols, aldehydes, ketones, amines, and carboxylic acids. The first molecules we want to look at is the sugars. The suffix of sugars is -ose. The simplest sugar is glucose, C6H12O6. Glucose is ubiquitous in the living world. In solid form, glucose is a single bonded hexagonal ring of carbons with an oxygen atom replacing one of the carbon atoms. We can picture a cyclohexane, C6H12, as a precursor molecule. The functional groups that substitute for hydrogens are one acetyl group, CH3OH, and four hydroxyl groups, OH, and a carbonyl group, CO. When dissolved in water, the oxygen breaks the ring and glucose takes on its linear carbon chain isomer form. The oxygen forms a double bond with the last carbon in the chain. A common sugar found in fruit is fructose, C6H12O6. In solid form, fructose has a 5-atom ring of 4 carbon atoms and 1 oxygen atom. When dissolved in water, fructose takes on its linear carbon chain isomer form. The functional groups that substitute for hydrogens are 2 acetyl groups, CH3OH, and 3 hydroxyl groups, OH, and a carbonyl group, CO. In a side-by-side image comparison of the glucose and fructose carbon chains, the second acetyl group, CH3OH, in the fructose stands out. Carbon atoms are understood to be at the nodes. It is common practice among organic chemists to leave the carbon atoms out of the skeletal organic molecule diagram. Cane sugar or common table sugar is called sucrose, C12H22O11. Sucrose is simply glucose and fructose molecules held together by a glycosidic bond. As we know from the making of beer, wine, and whiskey, sugar ferments into alcohol. Alcohols are just alkane chains with one hydrogen removed and a hydroxyl group, OH, substituted into the carbon chain. Alkane is the al, and the hydroxyl is the whole in alcohol. The most common alcohols are methanol, ethanol, and isopropyl alcohol. Methanol, CH3OH, or wood alcohol, is methane with a hydroxyl group substitution. Ethanol, C2H4OH, or drinking alcohol, is ethane with a hydroxyl group substitution. Isopropyl alcohol, C3H7OH, or rubbing alcohol, is propane with a hydroxyl group substitution. Aldehydes are compounds with an attached carbonyl group, CHO. If the rest of the compound is represented by R, then a generalized aldehyde is RCHO. It can be claimed that glucose is an aldehyde. The simplest aldehyde is formaldehyde, HCHO. Acetaldehyde or ethanol, CH3CHO, is ethane with a carbonyl, CO substitution, or methane with a CHO substitution. Ketones are pairs of compounds joined by carbonyl, CO. The general formula for ketones is R2CO, where the R is any compound. The most familiar ketone is acetone. Other common ketones include the ketose sugars and steroids such as testosterone. Acetone, H3COCH3, is a pair of methyl groups, CH3, joined by a carbonyl group, CO. Amines are compounds formed with an amino group, NH2, usually after a reaction with ammonia, NH3. Alkanes and alcohols are likely components of amines. Medicines such as amphetamine and ephedrine are commonly encountered amines. The most famous amines are the amino acids. Amino acids are combined to create proteins. We will wait to discuss amino acids when we extend our discussion into biology. There are plenty of simpler compounds that we can discuss that contain amino groups. A simple alkane amine is methylamine, CH3NH2, formed from substituting a hydrogen in methane, CH4, with an amino group, NH2. Fans of Breaking Bad will remember methylamine as the base for the drug crystal meth.
And this crap wasn't easy to get, and it's expensive.
Methylamine. Where's the methylamine? I don't see the methylamine.
Yeah, well, that's where I ran into some trouble.
The methylamine keeps flowing no matter what. We are not ramping down. We're just getting started. Nothing stops this train. Nothing.
Another alkane amine is ethylamine, CH3NH2, formed from substituting a hydrogen in ethane, C2H6, with an amino group, NH2. Urea, H2NCONH2, a component of urine, is a pair of amino groups joined together by a carbonyl group, CO. Ammonia gas, NH3, is liberated from urea drying out of the urine water solution. Carboxylic acids are formed by substituting a carboxyl, COOH group, into a compound R, to get the general formulation RCOOH. Formic acid, HCOOH, is formed when a hydrogen H is bonded to a carboxyl group, COOH. Formic acid is commonly found in insect stings such as ants and caterpillars. Interestingly, the most potent stinging fluid in fire ants are amine compounds formed from piperidine. The acetic acid, CH3COOH, found in vinegar is also a carboxylic acid. Acetic acid is a methyl group, CH3, bonded to a carboxyl group, COOH.
In my next video, I'm going to talk about polymer carbon chains. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to help me make similar content, please like and subscribe.